To know who I'm talking to. So if I could start with you, Chanel. I know you gave us a little bit. So just tell me who you are, what you do, and you're considered an emerging leader. Tell me why you're considered an emerging leader here.
Okay. I'm Chanel Harvey. I'm going to go ahead and say this. They haven't officially sent out the notification, but I assume you all don't know the people that I work with directly. I have just been promoted to the hub director at the Stark County Community Action Agency. So that sort of fits how I'm an emerging leader here. And I am an HBCU graduate. I graduated from Xavier University of Louisiana in 2009. And I also have my master's in human resource management that I obtained at Davenport University through their online program.
Congrats. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Chanel, did I say that right? Chanel Blunt? I probably said it wrong. Ms. Blunt?
No, hers was Shanta.
You know what? I better get these names right. I'm just go with Ms. Blunt.
Yes, that's what everyone just said, especially in the federal district. We use last names. We just call them everybody. Chantel is fine, or Blunt, but you know, whichever.
I'll go with that. So tell us about yourself a little bit here.
Yeah, that was pretty much it earlier.
Oh, that was it, huh? Why do you consider yourself an emerging leader?
Because I believe leadership is connected to serving. Serving is an honor. So I don't, I'm learning here. I'm new to MyCap. However, prior for Central Virginia Housing Coalition, which I'm sure you've heard of it, Northern Virginia to Fauquier, Virginia, I was the program manager for 7 counties. It was quite daunting. And, but I loved it. I loved it. It was the best challenge. It was actually a pilot program. And then I had to build it with the case managers and the board just sort of gave me a grant and I built it. But here, I moved here and now I'm learning and I'm a part of a great team and I hope to grow with the team. But I believe leadership starts on many levels. You can be like an entry leader, a beginning leader, and then the leadership is many levels. It's multi-level. So I'm just here learning and meeting all you wonderful people.
This topic should fit nicely with where we're going. Thank you for sharing. Kim.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Kim Omaregi. I'm with MyCap, Mahoney Youngstown Community Action Partnership. And I am the Director of Planning and Development, as well as a grant writer. And I am an emerging leader, just where I am in my positions here at MyCap. I had my 10 years on this past Sunday, and I've been in various roles here. Started off as with our employment training program and taught our basic computer class and worked in just different areas, and just the leadership that already exists here, seeing my potential and what my goals are, and just trying to get me exposed to as many avenues as possible, to help our mission.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. How about you, Joan?
So my name is Joan Turgeback. I'm with MyCap also, and I too have been with the agency for a long time, between 9 years next month, in various roles. And as with COVID, we've all had to learn parts of other departments and so on and so forth. And so that's what I would say why I've been designated as a emerging leader.
Thank you for sharing. Okay, Ms. Howard, how you pronounce your first name?
Good morning, it's Sorrell.
Sorrell. I was going to say that, but I didn't want to be wrong. So welcome.
Absolutely,
Sorrell.
thank you.
So the question is, tell us a little bit about yourself, a few seconds here, and then why do you consider yourself an emerging leader?
Okay, my name is Sorrell Howard. I too work at MyCap here in Youngstown, Ohio, Mahoney County. And when I started here, I haven't been at the CAP agency long, maybe I think July of 2018, I came to MyCap. But prior to this, I did work at Job and Family Services as a case manager and for 17 years. So MindCap, when I started, I am the community services manager now. I've had 3 job title changes since I got here. When I started, it was me by myself as a community health worker.
Understand.
We now have a group of community health workers that report directly to me, 5 of them. We started our program with COVID, the rental assistance, like we serve that portion of the community with all the grants that we've been paying for any COVID relief type programs. And I kind of wrote the programs and we just implemented. So I'm the emerging leader. We're trying to turn it into gold around here.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Monique.
Okay, sorry. I'm Monique Walker, and I am the Director of Energy Assistance Programs at Miami Valley Community Action Partnership in Dayton, Ohio. I am labeled an emerging leader because I've only been here for 4 months. However, I also I supervised the Section 8 program in Dayton, Ohio for 2 years, and then I also worked at Jobs and Family Services for 10 years, and I was a supervisor there over the intake and the call center. So I've been in a leadership position probably with different companies for about 7-8 years now, but I still, I guess, consider myself emerging because I think as time goes on, my leadership style has changed. So that's why I'm emerging as a better leader, I will say, here at Community Action Partnership.
I love the way you said that my leadership style has changed. And what we're going to talk about is the changing nature of leadership. And we're really going to, as I jump ahead a little bit, leadership is situational, right? So the different styles that we adopt will be based on the environment or the situation that we find ourselves in. But we'll get into that a little deeper. And I'm going to assume that Chelsea is not on. She stepped away for a few moments, so we'll come back. Let me just share who I am a little bit so you guys will know. I know I'm in the bio, but let me give you a little bit more insight into who I am and why leadership is such a fun topic for me. And I wish there was one where I could say I made no mistakes, but I've made a lot of them. So hopefully from my mistakes, we can have some real good dialogue here. My name is Anthony Redic. I am a leader. I'm a business owner. I'm an employee. I've done many things. I've functioned within IBM in a finance and operation as a leader over client base, a large client base. And then I have my own company where I do a lot of work managing financial management and leadership development for small business owners. We have about 4 staff members that we run, and so we do pretty well. We got clients in Atlanta, DC, Ohio, and several other states. So just kind of broadening or growing my work effort here. Then I've been in business since 1993. So started my business back in 93. None of you guys don't look weird. I'm older. So I started it then and have been on that journey of leadership and entrepreneurship for that long of a time. Currently, I'm almost done with my PhD in organizational psychology. I should be done in about 4 months, depending on the schedules of when I can defend. So that process is going well. And of course, it's right at the time where the holidays hit. So everything kind of slows down just a touch during the holidays. Been married for 31 years. Actually, my wife and I will be celebrating 31 in February. And I have 2 grown children, 29, 28. And I have a grandbaby that is 2 months old. So I get excited. You see the smile that comes on my face when I think of the grandbaby. So and his name is Eli Anthony. And I say his name only because his middle name is after me. I like to believe that. So I'm excited. Life, I look at life very optimistically. I'm always looking at the brighter side of things. I don't really have many bad days because to me, any day you wake up is another opportunity to be successful. So no matter what the mistakes are of yesterday or of the past, I could fix those things tomorrow, right? So that's just my outlook on life. So with that being said, I'm going to dive right into my presentation. I have multiple screens. So if you see me looking around, it's because I have multiple screens up. So let me share my document here. Let me share my screen rather. So I'm gonna put this in screen show mode. And then I'm going to find you guys. There you go. And I'm gonna move you to the side there. So then I'm gonna share my screen. So tell me if and when. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Perfect, perfect. So I'm going to monitor the chat, but what I'll do is I'll get to a stopping point to where we could review the data in the chat, and then we'll address any questions and answers, things of that nature. So don't worry. So put any information you have in the chat or any questions you have, and we'll dive in from there. Okay. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dive in. So the first thing I want to do is talk about the definition of leadership. So I want you all to help me with this definition. I'm gonna give you what I think leadership is, and you tell me if you agree, disagree, or if you want to add to it. So my definition is here on the screen. Leadership is the ability to influence others with or without authority or title. Leadership is the ability to develop a vision that motivates others to move with a passion toward a common goal. Those two, there's many others, right? There's no right or wrong when it comes to this, but I'm intrigued to understand what your view or your definition of leadership might be. So just chime in as you come off of mute and just talk to me. Do you agree or disagree, or would you like to add to this definition of leadership? I see some nods. I see some head nods. Anyone would like to add? Ms. Harvey?
I agree. I agree with them. I think that leadership is also getting people to get behind the vision and support it with action. I think that's a key part of leadership.
Excellent. Agreed. Ms. Walker, I thought you were going to say something. If I pick on you and it's not, please forgive me.
No, I agree. I think you did well with the definition. Like you said, the ability to motivate others is a big part of leadership, because you're only as good as leader as your followers. So
Yeah. I want you to remember that you said that, okay? You're only as good of a leader as the followers that you have. Anyone else want to add? The reason why this part of it is important is because everything that we talk about from here will be based on this definition or the definitions that we agree to right now. So anything we want to add to this, or are we okay? All right, I'll take your silence as we're good. The one thing I would add is leadership is also helping people to move to places and to levels they did not think possible. So for example, if you are working out and if you have a personal trainer, that trainer is supposed to lead you down a path of health and weight loss or whatever your goals might be. And there are many cases where the person being trained, they may not believe they can achieve these goals. So leadership is also a view of motivating people to move in directions that they just didn't think possible that they would be able to achieve. So I want to kind of keep that in the back of our minds as well as we think about leadership and what it all means. So some attributes that we will lean on, and then we'll talk a little bit about what a leader must have. A few attributes here: knowing the direction to pursue and having the strength of character to stay the course. Believing passionately in their goals, in their leadership goals. Being aware of their strengths and weaknesses. That's an important one. And I think the one that I've been focusing in on a lot more in my own personal journey is being an active listener. Now, I'm not going to compare male leaders versus female leaders, but I do believe that female leaders have a greater propensity to be active listeners more so than male leaders. And since I'm the only male on this call right now, I'm going to say you guys win. So you're good. No need to argue that point. All right, so let's move on to the next screen. And just give me some head nods. Do you guys agree with these as attributes that leaders must have? Perfect. So I'm going to take your nods as we're moving forward. And then a leader must do these 5 things, in my opinion, and we can add to this. A leader must convey an air of honesty at all times. I could have written that differently. I could just say a leader must be honest at all times. I just wanted to give that little nice air of, I don't know why I wanted to use that, but a leader must be honest at all times. I would also add a leader should be transparent as much as possible at all times. A leader must earn the trust of their team and act in the best interest of their followers. A leader must stay curious, and we will come back to that one later. A leader must be able to take calculated risk when necessary to achieve their goals. And a leader must work tirelessly to achieve their goals, be dedicated, must work no matter what to achieve their goals. So that dedication, work tirelessly, go hand in hand. Anything you would add here that you would say a leader must have? And you can come off your mute buttons for this.
Good communication skills.
Oh, yes. I don't know why I didn't have that. I'm not going to add it, but I'm going to write it down. Communication. A leader must be able to communicate. And may I add, written and verbal. Written and verbal communication, please. Some people can write well, some people can talk well, but leaders generally need to do both. Good point, Sorrel. Thank you.
Sir, yes, sir. I think it's very important what she stated about, the lead, not only that, but I think you said earlier, I'm sorry, leaders being empathetic, and also the active listening. I'm working on that part, but leaders being empathetic. And I noticed that you're as good as your team, but if the leadership is not great and doesn't understand the goal and doesn't understand the team and being empathetic and caring for the team, whomever the team may be, then you're really going towards a dead end, because I don't want to follow a person whom doesn't know the goal that we're trying to reach or is not aware of his or her title and the responsibility that goes along with that. So I don't know.
Great point. I will agree. The empathy is huge, not just in your leadership, but just in us as everyday human beings. We should be empathetic on a more regular basis. That's a great point. Anybody would like to add?
I would say, like she was saying, knowing your team and valuing them, because if you don't show them that you value them, I mean, what is the point of them getting behind and supporting your leadership?
Yeah, I put that one under acting the best interest of those who follow you, right? So yes, you have to know the people that are working with you, and you have to value them at a high level. Absolutely. Great points.
We had a leadership, our managers got together a couple days ago, and our director said we named all these qualities, and the one thing that she said no one ever lists when she does these things is to actually know yourself, and to be able to really, as a leader, look at yourself and be able to do the hard things for yourself and examine yourself down to the very core about your leadership skills, and know that you are imperfect, to be able to be a leader and know that you can have to constantly change and adapt and be willing to do anything you ask your team to do.
Ms. Howard, great points. The first one is here, knowing your own strengths and weaknesses. And so being very honest about what you're good at and what you're not so good at. And when you're honest in this way, you can also help leverage your team to fill the gaps where you're not the greatest. And then you have a team member, or you ensure that you have a team member that can cover your gap. And so that is extremely valuable as a leader, because guess what? If my leader shows their area of weakness, it gives me permission as the follower to show mine, and to also, find where my gaps are and who can fill my gaps or cover my back. When I know if I do not like, what's the word, paperwork, and I'm just making this up. If I don't like paperwork, you have to have somebody on your team that doesn't mind the detailed work and the detailed issues surrounding paperwork. So, but the team will only know that if I share with honesty and transparency in that way. Great point. So what we're going to do now is take a few minutes. This is going to be pretty quick here, and we're going to take a quick, what's your leadership style? Now I'm going to use some old leadership style concepts in this, because I just want to get a sense of who I'm on the call with and how you lead. So for each question, complete the statement by choosing one of the three options, A, B, or C. Answer according to how you would behave in reality rather than how you think you should behave. So just be honest with your answer, right? Of how you would really behave. There's no judgment. You get a piece of paper next to you and you can write your answers down. There's 6 questions and just do 1 through 6 and just write A, B, or C. You guys ready? It's not a hard quiz. Y'all ready to go? And tell me, can you guys read that screen? Okay, just give me a nod to make sure you can see. Excellent. Read those and just write your answers down. And I'll look at you. Let me know when you're done. Just give me a thumbs up. You can use your screens, emojis, and all those good things. Hopefully you guys know how to do that. Let me know when you're done. All right. I see a couple of you. There you go. Excellent. I love Joan's emoji. She just did a thumbs up for real. All right. So I think I'm looking at, okay, yep, I'm watching. Yes, ma'am.
I'm good, sir. Thank you so much.
I think everybody's good. Chelsea, thumbs up. There you go, 2 thumbs up. Excellent. Okay, so very simple. Now, I'm interested in some of your answers, but I don't want you to share. So this is how we're going to score this. So for every answer that you received, that you put the letter A, then what you would do is you would write the number 1. So give yourself 1 point for every A answer. And this is not a direct science. There was more questions, so I tried to condense this down to just 6 questions. So you'll get the hint of where I'm going. For the B questions, it's 2 points, and for the C questions, it's 3 points. So add your scores up. The highest score that you can get on this is 18. So if you answered all C's, you're going to get 18 points. But in the lowest score, if you answered all A's, you'll get 6. So we're just trying to play with a range. And again, these questions aren't meant to give you the exact science, just to give you a feel of some of the different leadership styles. And I'm just choosing 3 to work with. So everybody, hopefully we're all good at math. We'll see here in a minute.
Yes, sir.
Right.
I'm just double checking. So the B's were 2, the A's were 1, and the C's were
3.
3,
1, 2,
correct?
3. Yep,
Okay.
yep. A's are 1, B's are 2, and the C's are 3. So 1, 2, and 3. So based on your scores, and again, this is not a direct science, and it may not be 100% accurate because surveys, obviously you need more questions than just, and I see, Ms. Harvey, you came real close. That means you can't see this that well. Is that okay? Is it big enough? You're good?
I can see, I just leaned up, that's all.
Oh, okay, good. So if you scored 6 to 9, you are most commonly adopt an authoritarian or autocratic leadership style. You rarely consult your team members and instead tend to tell them what you want, when you want it, and how you want it done. And so that's more the autocratic. So you guys have heard of that. 10 to 14, you're more democratic. You want the leadership, you want the team members to participate. How do you feel about this? You want them to be involved. And the other score, 15 through 18, you are more of a democratic or more of a delegating. They used to call it laissez-faire, but more of a delegating leader. You give your team the freedom to flow. Now, without the scores and not worrying about that, I just thought it was fun to make y'all write answer 1, 2, and 3 down on every answer. Tell me what you believe your leadership style is based on these 3 options. Whether you wrote it down on your paper or not, I'm just interested what you believe your leadership style is. Are you autocratic? Are you more democratic or participative? Or are you more delegating type leader? So let's start with you, Ms. Harvey, because as you're in that top screen, I'll start with you.
I fell in the democratic participative style. And I do agree with that. I will say that like on a couple of the questions, I lean more towards the C or the A, but B sort of won out.
Okay.
However, I would say that if it's high turnaround, I am able to typically adapt and get it done without having, that hesitation of slowing it down.
I love the way you highlighted that. What we want to generally know is, what is your foundational leadership style? It doesn't mean you can't shift. There are moments when you need to delegate. There's a moments when you need to just say, get it done. And there's moments where you want to bring people in and have them help to create that democratic process. So I believe all of us flow in and out of all 3 of these, but just what is your foundational one? So I appreciate you sharing that, Ms. Harvey. Ms. Blunt, what would you say you are? Democratic, delegating?
18. No, I'm just playing. I'm definitely democratic. I scored a 12 on that, just to let everyone know. And the reason, I'm so sorry.
No, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. The reason for that, because I do believe in the shift, but I believe once you go into a team, like I used to be over certain homes, and I remember when you go in, sometimes you have to be delegated. You have to have that sort of autocratic style, and you need to be a leader, and but you need to delegate as well. So there's different styles you need to take depending on the situation and the type of team. But I am more of a democratic leader, I believe, or going towards that way, and I've always been that way, because if you are a good leader, you will have a strong team.
Okay.
So
say that again. If you are a good leader, you will always have a good team?
You have a strong team.
Okay,
Always strong. Now, sometimes you may have a few short straws.
Okay.
But then you have to bring them together. That's your job as a leader, to get it together.
Okay. All right.
In a nice way, sir.
I got it. Okay. Let's stay. I want you to remember that. Let's stay right there. Ms. Howard, what about you? What do you feel like you are? Are you autocratic, democratic, delegating?
I am definitely democratic. I like what Chanel said, I have the ability we got that deadline, we got to get it done. And so sometimes you can bounce it off, but then you have to know to delegate. This the time frame, I'm the final say. So I do approach my leadership skills like that. I try to get to know everybody, pick the strong suits. When I'm delegating, now who's gonna get this done the best way, the fastest way, and the way I want it, so if if you know your team, you know whose strong suits is what and where, and that's kind of what you have to work with. And like you said to Ms. Blunt, always, not always, but then you have to use that as well. Maybe that person is doing something completely different, but we all are trying to get the job done at the same time. And I try and make sure that everybody has, we're all inclusive. We all in this together, can't be successful separately. And if we got to get it done, this our deadline. How do you think the best way we could get this done based on what we all do? Because we know each other. And I listen, and I think, and I go, we're right. But if we need to tweak it, I go, and we just flip this thing, and I think it'll work better. But I had a final say.
Thank you for sharing.
And they respect that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So Kim, you're next on my screen. And then after you will be Monique.
Okay, so I fall under the democratic style, and I agree with that. And I answered the question just really thinking about the day-to-day operations of my job here at MyCap, like especially like with grant writing. So there's always different departments or different individuals who need to have some input in the grant writing. So going in, you know, everyone knows, okay, this is our goal. We have to get the grant done, submitted by such and such time. Give me your part. And if you have questions along the way, you know, let's work through it. So I definitely agree that I fall in that category. But I also think that not only depending on the situation, but at the very beginning of the task, you set the tone. So if it's something where you know you have a extended time frame, you can kind of come in at a more you know, slower pace, and you set the tone for it. But if you know it's something, because it states here, but it's not great in a high pressure. In a high pressure situation, you can still use that democratic style, but it's about how you set it up from the beginning.
Got it. Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing. Monique, Ms. Walker.
Yes, I was the Democratic leadership. I got a 10, so I don't know. I guess I was kind of teetering to the Democratic, but I kind of feel like Miss Harvey, whereas you know I try to let people be engaged in the process, and you know let's work through it. We're a team, and I really meet with my people one-on-one, more so in a group atmosphere, so that I can get better feedback on ideas and how they think the processes can flow better. But when I don't get the feedback that I need, then I know how to go ahead and put that plan in process and say, okay, well, I asked you guys, nobody gave me any ideas or suggestions, so here's the plan. So that, I guess that's probably why I got the 10 bit, but for the most part, I really do try to be engaging with my people, because they're the ones doing the work, and I think they, a lot of times they have good ideas, but sometimes they just don't want to share because they feel like it's not a good idea or things like that. So that's why I implemented our one-on-one sessions monthly versus a group meeting as a staff meeting, because people are more open to talk more freely when it's just you and them.
Thank you for sharing. I jotted down an idea based on a note, just based on something you said. I'll share it after we finish. So Joan, and then Chelsea. And then Chelsea, I'm having you go last because I want you to tell me what you do. Everybody explain what they do a little bit, so I'll have you do that last. So Joan.
Okay,
which one
so my style came up with scored a 13, so that would be the Democratic also. And while I agree so strongly with a lot of what Sorrel said, it comes down to knowing what you have to do and knowing your staff. Knowing your staff comes down to being just like a mother does. If you know your children well enough, you know what they're good at, you know what they're not good at. You don't want to give somebody that's not good at something a task that you know they're going to fail at. But being democratic, then if you bring everybody together to discuss what needs to be done and what their input is, that makes them realize that it is a team effort, makes them want to be involved in it, makes them feel like they're committed to the procedure as well.
Thank you. Very well said. Thank you very much. It's amazing that all of you guys are very similar in your leadership style. So this is interesting. All right, Chelsea, tell us what your leadership style is, but also tell us what you do and why do you consider yourself an emerging leader? So everybody else had a chance to do that. So what's your leadership style, Chelsea?
Good morning. Yeah, this whole conversation is really apropos as to why I was absent at the beginning of your session. I, much like Ms. Kim, I assist part of my role. I'm the Director of Resource Development at Miami Valley CAP in Dayton, Ohio. And much like Ms. Kim, a large portion of my job responsibilities is the grant writing. And Monique also works at my agency in Dayton. And I do want to say something about hers, though, because for her being so close to that first leadership style, I noticed on your thing, it says that this style works well in crisis. And I will say that that her team is in crisis. They're literally starting winter crisis next week. So I think it makes perfect sense that she, of course, has the attributes of a Democratic leader, but the necessity of her job and the crisis that her team is in right now really forces her and gives her the space to be that more autocratic leader. And I think that's what they need right now, Miss Monique. So great job, keep it up. Whereas for me, and she has a big team that she's the direct supervisor of, whereas myself, I'm kind of like a rogue agent. So I don't supervise anybody, but I'm right under the CEO. Like I report directly to the CEO. But I work with all of the different program directors as a peer to get things done. So I am a Democratic leader, to answer your original question. I scored a 13, and that makes perfect sense for me because I don't really have any actual authority, right? I don't have any say over their annual performance. I don't have any say over whether my peers get a raise or not. But what I do and what I am able to do is rally my troops around this idea of, hey, we have a collective mission, we have to meet. How do we pick and choose? And that's what, like I said, that's why I was late. I was on my phone with a fellow team member figuring out this grant that's due tomorrow with y'all on mute on one screen. So it was like the perfect, kind of exactly what I deal with every single day. So anyway, thanks for giving me an opportunity to explain myself. I wasn't just ditching.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah. And let me add on to what you just said. I do feel like individuals who've worked in very stressful, crisis-based environments are more autocratic. Child development or children services is always a very crisis-based entity. And so it's not a lot of time to kind of do the kumbaya and bring everybody in and get all their feedback. We have to take care of this child right now, and I need you to do 1, 2, 3, and we'll talk about the outcomes later. And so I do kind of feel that in a lot of the backgrounds that I'm hearing from you guys, that you can be autocratic when necessary, but your foundational leadership style you would prefer to lean on is more democratic. You'd prefer to get everybody's input, to bring everybody in together and get their insight. But most times it is, you know what, we got this deadline, we got this issue, we have this crisis, get it done, and then we will talk about how to fix things later, right? But what's interesting is as I've gone through and I'm listening, most of us did not really highlight the delegating or the laissez-faire. And interestingly, that's the leadership style I prefer, is the one where I empower the team to do what they want, to execute on their goals, and I don't talk to them until it's time to report back. I don't bring them in to ask for the participation. I really trust them to do their jobs at the highest level possible because they trust me to pay them their compensation, right? So you trust me to pay you, I trust you to do your job. And so I'll delegate to you all of your duties and opportunities that you should be accomplishing. And then we meet at the end and we review. Now that has gotten me in so much trouble. Because
I was about to ask you that.
Yeah.
I literally was
in so much trouble. Oh,
so how's that working out for you?
I told you at the very beginning, Ms. Howard, that I'm going to be honest with you guys about all my leadership failures. That has gotten me in so much trouble because then when it's time to review what you're supposed to do, I get a lot of, oh, I couldn't do this for these reasons. And so I do now have to be a little bit more autocratic in my leadership style. So I merged the autocratic nature with the delegating. I don't do a lot of the democratic flow because I don't really have the time in my life to bring everybody in and do that discussionary process, that consensus building. So as long as they know what they should accomplish at the beginning, and then autocratically, and then we do the delegating or laissez-faire, that's been a good mix for the team and the way I lead. So thank you for asking, Ms. Howard, how does it work?
I got a question. I got another question.
Sure. So
okay,
there's a question. So go ahead, Ms. Howard.
Did you say it's another question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Maybe not just a question, but just maybe an observation. Okay, so we're all women besides you, right? So do you feel like your two leadership skills, eliminating the democratic process, is it more male-based? Because we tend to be more nurturing as women and more emotional and kind of, we get the problems and you like, I don't want to hear that, you got a job to do, right? Because
Yes
you
and
said
no.
you don't have time to bring people together.
Yes and
I'm
no.
here 10 hours a day and my entire team sit right outside my door. So good, bad, or indifferent, whatever happens, because we all have problems, right? So I always believe that women take care of not that men don't, but we take care of the babies, the pets, the moms, the parents, whatever, that usually that is our core. So anything that happen with anybody outside that door, they come in with a problem. If you don't have the time, because that's not your leadership skill, this is what you do, this is your job, and then you adopt the authoritarian part of it. I'm just wondering, do you think it's a male-female kind of thing?
I do think it is. I do think in general, so let's speak in
Okay.
generalities. I do think that men tend to be more autocratic and less patient in a lot of their leadership, right? Here's what you're supposed to do, get it done. For me though, I'm more of the other end. I'm the nurturing kind of, I want to change. I'm with the babies. I take care of the pets. I do all that stuff too. I wash the dishes, right? So I do all those things. I just wanted to throw that in that I wash dishes. But I think though that it's also industry based. It's what area of industry you're served, right? So I deal a lot more in the financial industry, where that doesn't have a lot of the crisis in way of serving communities and families and children, but also do some counseling on the side as well. So I have a mixture of those things. So it is based on gender in a lot of ways, but I want to talk about how we're brought up from an environmental standpoint as well. So we're going to get to that in a few minutes. My time is running. We got 30 minutes left. And so, Ms. Harvey, I'm gonna get your hand up. The other thing I was gonna say, it's also the environment. The environment that we create dictates the kind of leadership style we have to generate. The fact that your team sits outside of your door, and the fact that you've allowed them over time to always bring their problems and their challenges to you, you've created that environment as well, right? So sometimes, and that's not a bad thing. That's just the environment you wanted. Great. If you love it like that, keep doing it. But remember, the environment we set will dictate the kind of leadership style we must execute on a day in, day out basis. Okay, so we'll come back to that because there's a history of leadership styles that we're going to talk about next. Ms. Harvey.
I was going to say that I think it also goes into the level of professionalism of those that you are leading, because like, for example, with my CHWs, there are stronger ones and there's weaker ones. And then I don't want to call them weak because they have their own strengths as well. But depending on what's happening, if I delegate something to them, there are those that I know I delegated, they're going to get the job done. And then there's others that is like, I got to keep checking in, or it's like, I try to remain at that democratic level, but once it gets to a point, it's like, okay, you're not doing what I need you to do. So now I got to come in from an authoritative standpoint. And so it's like, I don't want to show you that side, but if you don't do what is asked of you or required of you, in order for us to get your paycheck to you, then I have to show that style of leadership. So
great point. Excellent point. Thank you guys for participating. This really gives me some insight into who you guys are as leaders. So let's go to the next few slides. What I'm going to do is walk us through about 5 or 6 slides. It just gives us a quick journey or a view of leadership as it's transitioned over time. And then we're going to really talk about the intelligences of a leader. So I know I have about 30 minutes, but we'll get through this pretty quickly, okay? So let me click on through here. So, leadership, the concept of leadership has been around since, the very beginning of time. And, I don't know where you guys are from a biblical perspective, but, we know about leaders with Moses and, Abraham. We understand leadership from that context. But what we didn't have was a lot of theory-based research on leadership until like the 1800s. And that's when we started to really dig into understanding what is this concept of leadership from a theoretical context. So one of the first ones that's been documented is this theory of a great man theory. Now, we know back in the day, women didn't serve in leadership, right? We know that men were predominantly the known leaders. And it's not been until recently where women have really taken, when I say recently, the last 100 years, where women have really taken the lead in major ways in our corporation, in our community, in our society. So the great man theory was created from that context. The focus is that the leader is the hero. The leader is the person who is the one we know about. And we can talk about all of the leaders that we know from the days, Abraham Lincoln, Winston Churchill, Mandela, Jack Welch, Steve Jobs, etc., because there were these historic figures, Martin Luther King. I could have listed a number of males, and then there's females too, but when you talk about the theory, they didn't really research it from a female perspective, unfortunately. I'm saying unfortunately because I don't want y'all to be mad at me. So we got to understand that. So this was the great man theory. The next theory, trait theory. This paradigm shifted around 1910, where we started to talk about what traits existed in people to help them to become good leaders. Now, we recognize that traits alone lacked consistency, so it's hard to lean on that theory as something that we should adopt fully. But from the standpoint, a person does not become a leader by virtue of the possession of some combination of traits. As a result, leadership research shifted away from this behavior, the trait concept, towards behaviors. So what is a trait? It's this innate thing that you're born with, that you're given. Your personality is a part of the trait concept, where they used to assume that because you have certain traits, you would be considered a good leader. And that trait theory lasted from about 1910 to about 1950, 1948 or so. But then we dove into the behaviors, right? Some people had great traits, but poor behaviors, or great or not so great traits, but great behavior. So there was this conundrum of mixture that they had to exist in. So the shift was, if we can't nail down the internal traits, who we are as individuals, can we look at the external behaviors, right? So a person may consider themselves detail-oriented or organized, but their desk is a mess. Right? So don't shake your head. My desk right now, if I showed you, is a mess. But I think I'm organized sometimes because I know what I need to do, where I need to go, where I need to be in my head internally, but the outcome of it doesn't look that way. So if you walked into my office, it would be, this dude is not organized at all. So you have the internal trait versus the external behavior. The theory is linked to nature versus nurture. And I'm gonna pause right here because I'm interested in your question. You don't have to go into it deeply. Do you believe leaders are born, or are they taught? Can we learn to be a great leader, or are we born in that context? So I'm gonna go around, just tell me, born or taught. I'm gonna start with you, Ms. Harvey. Everybody come off of mute real fast. Do you believe we're born with it, or we're taught this? You're born or taught?
I think most are born, but you can be taught.
Ooh, most are born, I like that. Ms. Blunt?
I agree with her, it's a combination. Because
Combination.
Yes.
Give me, pick one. I'm not gonna let
no,
you.
it's a combination. Because I'm giving a quick example. It's a combination. I was always very meek, very mild, but I grew up hard. So now I have a good combination.
Got it. I get it. Joan?
I would say based upon it's what you've internalized through your life. So I think they're made.
Ooh, I like that. Sorrel?
I agree with Chanel. We born, but you can be taught. I don't know. I think anybody has the ability, even if it was mimicking something else. You know, sometimes people do exactly what they're taught and are great at it. So I just think you're born with it, but you can be taught.
Okay, all right. Monique?
I think, I do think that it is more of a learned situation, because I think, like you said, even though you're born into certain situations, but that's what causes you to get those traits that, help you become a good leader.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Chelsea.
I think everybody, whether they want to say they are a leader because they were taught to be, I think everyone was born that way. Like, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were talking about how in a village, they were getting ready to be attacked, and there was a gold statue, and they covered it with mud. And fast forward, after the war, it was still covered with mud. And then generation after generation went by, and they forgot that there was a gold statue under the mud. Well, then a few generations later, there was a big storm, and the mud came down, and they found this statue that had been there for generations. I say all that to say, I think we're all born a leader. It's just, how do you uncover that? Like, how do you uncover that?
Great, great. All of you are making great points, and we're gonna kind of unpack that a little bit more in a few moments here. Kim, what do you thought? Born or learned or taught?
I just think taught.
Okay.
Straight up, just taught.
Thank you guys for sharing. That was amazing. So a few other comments here is, back in the 1951, 1957, they identified, these researchers identified two primary considerations when it comes to leadership: task focused or oriented, or relationship. Am I all about getting the work done, or am I about the people and building the relationships to help get the work done? So those two dichotomies existed. They can exist together, all right? Just like you could be autocratic and democratic or delegating, but generally they kind of put those in two separate buckets. The next one was the contingency theory. And as you can see, time is getting closer and closer to where we are today. This theory considers people involved, the task required, the situation, the nature of the organization. And in essence, if I sum this up, it's all about the environmental factors that surround the leadership. It's all based or contingent upon where I am. If I work in a warehouse plant, let's just say like an Amazon, my leadership style would be very different than if I worked at one of the CAPS. If I worked in the community service space. I don't run the business or run the operation the same in a warehouse as I do when I'm dealing with the community. So it's environmental. It's contingent on, my leadership is contingent on where I exist. And I think I said that a little earlier. I function a lot in the finance space. So it's all about numbers. It's all about accuracy. So I'm not here to coddle you or to hold your hand. Either 1 + 1 = 2, or you don't have a job. So it's those kind of very direct things, and it's very different, right? I'm here to take care of a child who needs food. I don't need to talk about 1 + 1, right? I need to feed you, and I need to make sure you have socks and shoes and a coat because it's getting cold outside. The heart that you have for that is very different than the math heart, if that makes sense. Just an example, right? So this research acknowledged that no single style of leadership was universally appropriate. What works best in your environment may not work in another environment. So that's the context of being more of a contingent thought process. They recognized that the theory had these components: a leader member or leader follower, a task structure, and a positional power structure. Chelsea, you said earlier that I don't have anyone underneath me. I don't have an official leadership title. Yet you do serve as a leader because it's your job to bring everybody together to execute on grants and other resource opportunities. So we are now in this very organizational structured environment where I need to know what your title is in order to function. Oh, I'm the CEO, or I'm the COO, or I'm the CFO, whatever those titles are. We function in those spaces. It's not always just for the leader to understand their role, but it's for followers to understand, who do I go to in case of crisis? It would be bad if the people who work under Monique in crisis went to Chelsea, because right? Because we need to understand who's going to be responsible in those situations. It's contingent. The next one is the leader follower theory. Very self-explanatory. Many of you might be aware of the servant leadership context, or the servant leadership model by Robert Greenleaf. This is that kind of structure where we want to hold the follower up as high as we can, because the more we nurture our followers, the more we can accomplish. So this role really has the follower as the main focal point. The leader's job is to make sure the followers are good and happy. That's why Ms. Howard has her followers sitting outside of her door. So whatever's going on with them, she can take care of that situation and help them. And then she can get to her, the work can be accomplished. That's the leader follower construct. We're almost done, just a few more on this history. Transformational leadership. Now, this is interesting stuff here. This is where we start to introduce the concept of transformation versus transaction. Transactions are, I go into the bank, I make a transaction, and I walk out of the bank, and I don't have to go to the bank anymore for 2 more weeks, 3 more weeks, or whatever the time frame might be. Transformational is I sit with you and walk with you through the process to help you transform from point A to point B. And it's a long-term relationship. I'm not here just to get you to finish this one job. I want you to have a successful employment career. So I'm gonna be transformational and help you to grow over time. This work really focuses on the leader as a person that executes on the behaviors that they want their staff to follow. Someone said that earlier. Be willing to do what you want your followers to do. Walk the walk. Have y'all heard that before? Or talk the walk or walk the walk. I guess I wrote that wrong. Inspirational and motivational. You're always offering that vision of what you want to see happen. You're stimulating them intellectually. You're approaching problems from multiple angles. You're having that democratic, hey, give me some input, give me your insight, and let's talk about the best way to reach or to intellectually accomplish this goal. And then, of course, idolized attributes. You are showing strong character in working for the good of the whole. In other words, you don't treat me one way and treat Sharon another way. You treat us all fairly. You're showing strong character of how you lead. And when you say you're going to do something, you actually do it. And in this environment and where we are today, that doesn't always happen. You can kind of look at the news and see how many leaders are faltering because they're doing something very different than what they said they would do. New directions in theory. So around 2010, around 10 years ago, about a decade ago, things started to go haywire. And that's because we had a whole new level of people coming into the workforce at a leadership level. Millennials started rising to leadership level. A lot of women started, rising to levels and bringing new ways of leading to the corporate market, to the marketplace. That was all good, right? Because we don't need the same kind of leader in every environment. We know that men dominated this space and older white men dominated the space even more so. Now that we have this new blood, this new mindset, the landscape started changing around the 2000s. And so you could see now that the theory became more around your culture, hierarchical levels of leadership. And someone said, Ms. Howard asked me, do I lead my way because I'm a man versus being a woman? Gender plays a role in how you lead. Race absolutely plays a role in how you lead. And so our national context, our cultural backgrounds weigh heavily in our leadership decisions. I also highlighted that it also depends on the environment. If I'm in a warehouse versus a community agency, we lead differently. But this is where we started to talk about neurological pathways in leadership. Our biology started to be researched. Am I born with a certain genetic leadership code? And we asked about being born versus learned. And this is the time where we had the technology to do that level of research. And so now we're at that point where behavioral genetics is really at play in leadership emergence, leadership role occupancy, effective hormones on leadership. Woo, what were they talking about there? I put that there because I wanted you guys to get your input or at least see your faces when I said that. And then the social biology of leadership. It's interesting how whoever came up with this, and it wasn't me, obviously they were looking at a hormonal context because women are now more in the workplace and we know what they're saying. I'm not going to even lean on that even more, but we understand that we lead based on how we feel. And if I'm feeling different today, as opposed to yesterday, does the way I lead change? Something to think about. I see you laughing. I see you smiling, Ms. Walker. I see you. So.
No, and I agree with that because, and it's not, it could be a good and a bad thing. But I think if you are a self-aware person, which I've worked hard on being, and I think that anybody that wants to be a good leader has to do that self-check and be more self-aware and know that if you are feeling that way that day, because like you said, it is natural. Women are built different than men. We just have to learn how to control and make sure we manage our emotions and feelings a different way. And it's not always easy, but I think that if you're aware of what's going on that day, because nobody wakes up every day in a good mood. That's men, women, men have problems too. So let's just, be real.
We do.
But I think that for anybody that wants to be a good leader, you have to learn how to control your emotions and not make everything personal when you are trying to, address your staff and things like that.
It's a misnomer to believe that only women are hormonal, right? Men, as we understand now from a genetic perspective, have so many hormones, mood swings, and all those things. And I think it's unfair to always label women as being the ones that are impacted by their hormones. We are as well, men are as well. But the understanding of what hormones really do to us from a leadership context has not really been studied. So we don't know, but being self-aware of how you feel, some days you just need to stay home, right? Some days I'm not feeling my best and I don't want to impact the flow of the team. I need to find a different way to work so that I don't do that. So very great point. So thank you for sharing that.
Just a quick warning, Anthony, we've got about 10 minutes left.
I saw the time. Thank you very much. So quickly, as we just kind of flow through the last part of this, systems leadership recognizes, this is another theory from 2015 onward, collaborative leadership is the focus, right? I need to leave my ego at the door. I don't need to come in thinking I'm the big man on campus. So I need to sacrifice my ego for the common good, consider multiple points of view. The thought is you need to have some smart people working for you, with you, and you can't be the smartest one in the room. So you have to be willing to say, hey, I don't know the answer. Give me your insight. We have to be creative. We're in an environment of pure creativity right now. So we have to be willing to replace what we think we know with levels of creativity. And then let's look at various insights that will come from that output. I'm going to rush through this now. Let me take the next 10 minutes and talk about multiple intelligences. This is plenty of time. Dr. Howard Gardner came up with this theory called multiple intelligences. He said that we are intelligent, every person in an area, that we are more intelligent in certain areas than others. So for example, people who can play instruments have a very musical intelligence, as opposed to people who are good with math, people who are good with language. If you can learn multiple languages, you're said to be linguistically intelligent. If you are great with people, being hyper empathetic, counselors fall into this space. You are intelligent and intrapersonal, understanding yourself, what you feel and how others feel, intra and interpersonal. There they are, sensing people's feelings and emotions. So from that construct, we all have levels of intelligences that others don't have. Any instruments, musical people on this call here, anybody can sing, things of that nature, right? So you would be considered intelligent. Your brain is wired in a way that allows you to understand musical notes and when to hit this C sharp and all these other things. Not so much on my end. So we have to value those. Well, in that same construct, we have leadership intelligences, right? So let's talk about them quickly. IQ, intelligence quotient. How bright are you? Emotional, EQ, how well you handle yourself and work with others. OQ, operational quotient, how able you are to get things done. MQ, motivational, how driven you are to achieve and grow. Now, I know that's EQ, but we're using the X today, so work with me. XQ, how many of the requisite kinds of experiences you had that lead into your leadership. And LQ, learning quotient, how deftly you adopt or how easily you adopt new skills, behaviors, and belief. So with a few minutes, just give me a quick answer with no commentary because I'm running out of time. Which one do you think you are? All right, I'm gonna start with you, Ms. Blunt. Which one? IQ, EQ, OQ, LQ, MQ, or XQ? You're many of them, I know. But if you had to choose the one that you're dominating at, which one would you say? I know it's hard.
Quantifiable intelligence. I have to go with the intelligence quotient.
IQ?
Yeah, my qualifiable intelligence, which would be my IQ, yes, sir, because the other parts aren't that great. Sorry about that.
Joan?
I would say EQ, I mean XQ.
XQ, experience, got it. Tim?
Yes.
EQ, emotional.
Got it. Monique?
MQ.
MQ, motivational. All right, Chanel?
I would probably say XQ.
XQ, got it. Ms. Howard, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I would say LQ.
Oh, interesting. Chelsea?
I'm definitely EQ.
EQ. Thank you. Remember what you said, right? Remember what you said. So let's keep going here. Leadership intelligence, fatal flaws. So if you notice, this is Zinger and Folkman, back about maybe 10 or so years ago, did this study, and they identified 5 fatal flaws that a leader, that lead to failure as a leader. So when leaders don't adopt these things, it's not saying that you guys are failing, it's saying these are things that you should have when you're leading. And you'll see many of them that you guys have chosen. Inability to learn from mistakes, right? Having LQ, lack of openness to new or different ideas, lack of core interpersonal skills, PQ, all right? And I have it at the bottom there. I added that. PQ is, I didn't put that in there. I'm gonna connect PQ to emotional quotient. I'm gonna make that connected to the emotional quotient, EQ as well. Lack of accountability, OQ, operation, and lack of initiative, not being motivated to work and to move forward. Also, habits of unsuccessful leaders. They think they have all the answers. Now, we've all worked for people who believe they think they have all the answers and they're not prepared to learn from others. So that's a challenge. Eliminating anyone who isn't 100% behind them. That's EQ, PQ. People skills, emotional intelligence. If you're not 100%, you don't have the emotional wherewithal to work with people that may not be yes men or women, then that's a challenge. Underestimating major obstacles, not learning through failures, learning through the process, and stubbornly relying on what has worked in the past. Do you know how people sometimes say this, this is all, we've always done it this way? Okay, have we learned from how we've done it so that we can improve? Ms. Howard, you have a question.
No, I just wanted to change mine. I'm not LQ, I rebuke that.
All right, which one are you? Let's go back. Which one are you?
I think I just quickly pick one, but I don't know, maybe I'm a balance of a lot of them because I can't identify just one.
It's hard to identify just one, right? It's hard to, because it's not, because we all function in varying ways. I would probably say I'm motivational, I'm emotional, I'm operational, and I'm learning, right? I don't always feel like I'm very bright, right? Because I don't know a lot until I learn it. So my learning makes me brighter. So it all depends. We flow in and out of all of these things. So let me keep moving. All right, leadership traits. These are traits. Of leaders who are not as successful once they jump into leadership positions. Again, PQ and EQ are the same. Not relating well to others, having that high EQ. When you don't have it, you're not going to go far in your career. This is based on research, not my work, but based on Zanger and Folkman. Self-centered. When you lack emotional intelligence and you're not as and you are self-centered, that's a struggle. You're not able to inspire or build talent, not able to really have an emotional way to help work well with other folks. You're too narrow. You're not willing to learn and to experience other things, and then delivering results. We know that if we don't do our jobs, obviously, if we're not operationally strong, we will struggle. So now, what do you need to do going forward? I'm gonna end it with this slide. We have 3 minutes left, and I know I've rushed through this last part, and I really appreciate you guys' time and attention here. To be successful as a leader, understand the varying intelligence for lasting success. Find out the ones that you're great at, or the areas that you lean on, even if it's all 6 of them. Figure out your way of functioning in and out of those things, right? Recognize the power of being bright, having IQ, operational intelligence, and motivational. Being willing to motivate your team is critical. Having all of those are important for performance and to reach higher levels of leadership. But don't forget to put emphasis on learning and experience and your emotional intelligence or people intelligence. So don't forget that you should be, I always believe that leaders are readers. Read something on a regular basis to enhance your leadership skill, and don't always read the same material. Jump into some sci-fi to get your mind out in the imagination space. Look at some history stuff. Look at a biography. Try to read a multiplicity of things so that you can kind of grow your thinking around what other people may have done or what other people have written. Assess your learning earlier in your leadership. Know where your weaknesses are, know what you don't know, figure out a way to learn, and help your people follow that mindset. Challenge your teams to read, challenge them to learn something, challenge them to go and take a class that's free online. The internet and YouTube, you can learn anything. You can learn how to put an engine in your car if you get on YouTube. I want to really challenge you guys to allocate time and resources to enhance your learning intelligence. When I worked at IBM, they required that I take 60 hours of education every year. I've had people on my team take 200 hours in a year. Now, you might think that that's a lot, right? But if you spend a few hours a day, take some time over the weekend while you're watching your TV shows like I do. Yes, Netflix is my friend. And replace that with an educational context, you'll be surprised at how many hours you can get in. Focus on developing your people skills and your EQ. And lastly, be open to experience. Take risk. You can't learn from experiences you're afraid to have. So get out there and have fun. Guys, I know I've rushed through these last little bits. My name is Anthony Redic. Thank you for the time that you've given me. I apologize if I didn't get a chance to kind of get through everything, but let me know if you have any questions.
That's
I'm
great.
here to help.
Okay,
and I look
Yvonne
forward
is gonna kick us out of the breakout room quickly, so
Well, Mr. Redick, you're so awesome.
I'll
we
make
are
sure my
gonna share.
information, if you want to reach out to me, I'll make sure my information is available.